Tommy Rex, and you're listening to today's Boondoggle.
This is Mark Metcalf, and you are listening to today's Boondoggle with Bailey on Domain Cleveland Radio.
You are listening to today's Boondoggle with Bailey on Domain Cleveland Radio. Yes, Kato Kalin listens to this all the time.
Welcome to today's Boondoggle. Now, here's your host. Sonic Temple Art and Music Festival returns May 14th through 17th with My Chemical Romance, Tool, Bring Me the Horizon, and Shinedown. Plus, Pierce the Veil, Good Charlotte, The Offspring, Sublime, Godsmack, Breaking Benjamin, Marilyn Manson, and so many more. Sonic Temple in Columbus, Ohio, May 14th to 17th. Passes on sale now for as low as $1 down at sonictemplefestival.com.
What's going on, everybody? It's Bill Bailey with today's Boondoggle, and we're taking this conversation out to the public, the Jon Q Public, so to speak. Talking to JJ Roeting. What's going on, man? How you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks for asking. How are you?
I'm good, man. You know, like I was saying before we went on, living life on life's terms, best I can. You know, but
I feel that myself. Yeah,
I love getting on these conversations and getting out of my head for a little bit, you know?
Absolutely. And we sure appreciate you giving us the opportunity to do so by having me on and representing Jon Q Public. So we really appreciate that. And I've gotten to watch some of the episodes of your podcasts, and I think they're pretty cool. So thanks for doing what you're doing and keeping it going, you know? Thank
you, man. I appreciate that, man. It's like I've just was talking to one of the publicists that I've kind of formed a relationship with yesterday, and it's not to take us off track, but you know, sometimes it's just like this world of likes and hits and streams and all that shit. It can get kind of like, you know, sad. Like, what am I doing? You know, does this even matter? But every time I end a conversation with somebody, it's just like, I hear nothing but good things, that they had a great time and that they enjoyed the conversation. So when it's ready to hit, and it'll hit, and people have a lot of good conversations to go listen to, I guess, you know?
Well, I think it's important, you know. I live near Cincinnati and haven't been back here, I think, for almost 14 years, and came back last year. I mean, I had been back through and traveling and touring and stuff like that, but and visiting family and all of those things. But I moved back here and kind of relocated so I could be central to touring and stuff like that. And yeah, it seems to me that kind of you get settled in, you get things going, and you don't know what to expect, but you take your chances. And guys like you that are out here in the community doing this stuff give people like us who are completely unknown to most people an opportunity to actually just kind of say, hey, we're out here doing stuff, you know, if you want to check it out and you're into it, we're all about it, you know? And
yeah, for sure, man. Awesome. Well, yeah, speaking of, you mentioned moving back home, let's talk about, when I have people on for the first time, I like to go way back. And if you watch my episodes, you know what I'm about to ask. But originally, what did you want to be when you grew up?
A lawyer. I don't know how long I really grabbed onto that idea and kept it, but I know at a young age I saw potential in the idea of A, being able to argue, and B, getting paid for it. And I liked that. I liked that idea that, like, hey, I can go argue for a living and, you know, maybe make something. And I don't know if I thought that much into, like, for a living, but it was like, people will give me money to do this. And I argue with my parents all the time. I could probably do that, you know. So.
Nice. Yeah, I look back at some of my kids growing up, and it's just like, man, this is, you know, and then even like, you know, myself as a youth, and it's just like, you know, there was that whole mentality of just like, you know, don't talk back, don't do as I do as I say, and and all that stuff gets played out. And then when you have us curious types that are always questioning or naturally maybe just not trying to be defiant or rebellious, but we just, are curious about things. But then I've noticed that with some kids, and I'm just like, and now I'm seeing things through a different lens, and I'm like, yeah, they'll probably make a good lawyer someday, And then when was it like in your house that like you were first like exposed to music, and who were some of the early influences?
I'm glad you asked that question. For me, I feel like I have like this really cool introduction to rock and roll music, and when I talk about it to people, they feel that way too. So I'm happy to get to share this with you. But my dad, there was a radio station, I believe it's still around here in Cincinnati. I know it is, WEBN. You may or may not have heard of it. But they have a big fireworks show every year and all kinds of stuff. But they're known for rock and roll in the city. And when I was a kid, there was a guy that my dad was friends with named Wildman Walker. And my dad took me to see Metallica, and he knew Wildman Walker, who was on the radio as the host. And he was known for just being absolutely, just completely, out there, in left field. And he was known for being a wild man. He lived up to his rep. So my dad got tickets, and I was young. I was probably 6 years old. And we had press seats. So we're like, 4 or 5 rows back from the front. And unnecessarily, there are girls like in front of us on shoulders so that they can look like right probably at James Hetfield and like all these guys and just like look them right in the eyes, and their boyfriends are holding them up, and Metallica comes out and he asks them to bear it all, and the girls pull up their shirts and beer's going everywhere, comes all over me. My dad and this guy are trying to cover my eyes, but they're like kind of trying to pay attention to what's going on in front of them. I'm like, man, I love rock and roll. I've arrived. This is where I belong.
Nice.
Excuse me. But so there's that. And I grew up in a house where there was an eclectic.
You went mute for some reason. I don't know what happened. I can't hear you now. Yeah, so at 6 years old, boobies, beer, and Metallica. You knew you had arrived then. That's
yeah, and we had this eclectic, I'd say, group of music that kind of circled around where I was at. Like my dad was heavy into classic rock, so was my mom. They had different tastes, but anything music, like my family, they were into and tried to involve me in, and so I picked up woodwinds at an early age, and just like all kinds of weird things that probably I don't know. I know everybody goes towards an instrument. I don't think people would pick up a piccolo, but it was affordable because my cousin had one or something, and like that was given to me. And then it was like, all right, now I'm playing in this band and learning theory. And I don't know any of it now. I don't remember any of it now. I play punk rock now. None of it even registers, but the classic rock records, they've stayed with me. All the music and all the musicians that have lent themselves to, gosh, you know how it is with music. I mean, we all love it. That's why we're attracted to it, right? Like,
yeah, it's a nice escape sometimes,
Yeah,
very therapeutic. Now, when was it that so you when did you trade in the piccolo and like pick up a guitar and start playing?
So I played woodwinds up until from the time I think I was in I want to say the 2nd or 3rd grade or it may have been right around there. And then into, I would say close to my senior years when I kind of was like, I'm not feeling band camp. I don't want to do any of that stuff. Like, that's not for me. And I was really interested in hanging out and doing bad stuff with bad people. So I started to get into hanging out with the kids that were smoking cigarettes and stuff, and they had guitars. So I think around then is when I was introduced to one, and I couldn't do much with it. I wanted one. I asked for one. I was maybe, nearing 15 or 16 years old. My dad had taken me to get a guitar lesson when I was 12 because I was interested. And then immediately kind of like, I screwed up the opportunity and lost the opportunity, took the lessons away. So I was like, all right, well, now I don't have that. I have to figure it out on my own. And, kind of managed to do that later, in the next couple of years.
Yeah. And, I've yet to attend a show where somebody's playing the piccolo and women are flashing their tits at them. So, good choice.
It was a solid choice to move to a stringed instrument.
Yeah. So then, as the like the lessons were taken away and you said, I got to, do it myself. When was it that you got around other like-minded people and started forming a band?
It's a very good question. For me, it was interesting because I feel like I grew up, like I was introduced to the type of music that I think I lean into most, right around 12 or 13 years old. It was a very difficult time for me in my life. And as it is for a lot of people that are coming of age and all that stuff. And my friends all kind of felt the same way I did. And we all kind of met this music around the same time. So we shared that bond and we'd start going to places that were all ages when we were 14 and 15 years old. And we were introduced to these like bands that we look at today and we're like, wow, they're playing mega stages, these guys. And we pay $5 to go see them or $10 to go see them or not pay anything and like make someone feel sorry for us at the back door or something like that to let us in, And I think as things progressed, by the time I was 17, 18 years old, I like knew I wanted to be in a band and all I wanted to do is play rock and roll. And it didn't work out that way exactly until a little bit later, but I did have the opportunity to go out, play shows and tour a little bit and travel. And then as the years progressed, more started to happen.
Gotcha. And then what was like the music scene like there in, you said Cincinnati is where you grew up?
Yeah, Cincinnati, Ohio, and Northern Kentucky. The scene, I feel like, was awesome for us growing up because it seemed like with punk being what it was and all these different things going on in the world, I'm going to date myself, but back around, we would say mid to late 90s, all of a sudden punk was like emerged out of the grunge scene and like all this stuff's happening. So underground music, like we were legit playing in basements and going to see shows. And here I am now, I'm like going out touring and I'm still getting to do the same thing. I go to basements and I get to see shows. So it's nice to see it come full circle. But back then it was kind of like, we would kind of pop up wherever we could and do whatever we could when we could and play the music that we could when we could as long as we could. And the scene in Cincinnati was so eclectic and so diverse that there was like one strip we call Short Vine. And on Short Vine, there would be like 6 clubs and every night there was something happening at all of them. So you're like bouncing from bar to show to show to show. One was a concert venue and a laundromat, and it was pretty big, and they would put on these fests and all that stuff. So I was introduced to the underground music scene, and I thought that was cool. And then I also got the mainstream stuff and the pop stuff from my family, who would take me to shows and concerts and stuff like that, or want to go see, Van Halen or whatever it was. And I'm like all jazzed up to go see these rock legends and stuff like that, like the Stones and all that. So I feel like I was very fortunate, and to be here around that time to have that introduction to music, and to be brought up the way I was with music.
Nice. And then when did Jon Q Public come together for you, and like what was the inspiration for that name?
So a few years back, I had kept kind of a project from when I was a teenager alive called Johnny Law. And it was really me like writing riffs and still writing music. Our drummer, a very good friend of mine, had passed away, and I like kind of just wanted to keep the memory of it, I think, alive. I had moved on and gotten into the business world and kind of gotten away from music for a while and really just focused on hey, this is an idea and a dream that I have, and maybe I'll come back to it later. But right now I'm going to focus on like what I know I can do. And at the time that was building businesses. So I did that. And so circling back years later, like now I have money to go into a studio and make some records. So I started doing that, and I had started engineering on my own and working out of a studio, engineering and stuff like that. And what ended up happening is I had written a whole record of Johnny Law material. I met a guy, and him and I started writing a record together, which it has become the Crackheads Boxing Club and Split Decision, something we released last July. And there was a third project that I was working on. So I had like these 3 different records that kind of all somehow felt like they belonged somewhere together. And I went from being in a band called the Crackheads and already having Johnny Law to going, I have these 2 now kind of catalogs of music. How do I find the common ground? My friend that was in the original band and the original lineup of Johnny Law threw the name Jon Q Public in the hat. And ironically, I felt like that fell right in the middle of the Crackheads and Johnny Law. Like Jon Q Public is the common man right in the middle of it all. And I just felt like, man, that makes sense to me. And it made sense to my bandmates, and so that's kind of where we landed with it.
Nice. So, have you ever seen the movie American Dinner?
No, I don't think so.
So yeah, one of the reasons why, like when I caught your name caught my eye, my fiance made me watch this one movie with her called American Dinner a while back, and I didn't think I would like it, but I ended up loving it. It became like our jam. Like it's a relationship story, and she's like falls in love with this dude who's like he wears a mask, and he's like a punk rocker, and he goes by the name Jon Q. In his band. He's in this band like Psyops, it's called.
That's rad. Because
of that movie and everything, once I saw your guys' bio and stuff, I was like, yeah, I'll talk to these guys because she made me watch a movie I didn't think I'd like, and it ended up becoming like one of our movies together.
Well, I'm gonna have to watch it now. I can't not watch it after learning what you just.
Yeah, you'll enjoy it, man. Check it out. Definitely, if you have your significant other, sit down with her and check it out.
I'm into it. Thanks, man. Yeah. So,
and then
I have a question for you, if it's all right.
Yeah.
Do you when you think about the podcast and the impact that it has on people, what makes you most happy about what you do with it?
I mean, like we were saying, I think before coming on, it just I do get like, if I get caught up in what the labels and what everything is supposed to be about, what's being pushed on us with social media, if I get caught up on like the amount of likes and subscribers and streams and stuff like that, it can kind of be, it could kind of be deflating. Like, why am I doing this? But then I remember, like, for me, I originally, I just celebrated 17 years sober.
Congratulations. And that's a huge milestone.
Thank you. And it was just like, dude, this has been my therapy. This has been me not needing social lubricant to socialize anymore. This is like, what is that kind of exposure therapy? It's like I'm forced to talk to a stranger, and get to know him and have a conversation. So, there's a personal thing in there for me. I'm a veteran with, that had mental health struggles as well. And I just got off a therapy session before we jumped on here,
Thanks for the service, by the way.
Thank you. But the joy I get from it is not just like the growth that I've seen in myself, if I kept it selfish, but like I had an interview yesterday, and one of the, like I said, the publicist I was talking to, she's just like, every time I start a conversation, I try to end that conversation with like, either I made a new friend, or at least the person's going to enjoy the conversation they had had with me, you know,
I
and
like
that's pretty fulfilling for me, you know.
I think that's great, man. Yeah, I really have a lot of respect and admiration for what you're doing and what a lot of other people like you get to do with this stuff. It's awesome, and I know the community appreciates it. We sure do. So thank you.
Oh, thank you, man. Yeah, back in the day, it would be like all for ego, and sometimes that comes into play. Like I said, you know, when I get like butt hurt that I'm not being seen or heard by, you know, like Joe Rogan size audiences or collecting paychecks from Spotify or anything like that, you know. But you know, it is what it is, man. I come back down to earth, and I just know that I'm happy with what I'm doing, and I feel like I'm helping get some sort of exposure for people and message out there. And when the time's right, you know, maybe there'll be some fruit growing off the vine, you know.
Absolutely. I've learned a lot from friends of Bill, and the four absolutes are something that I try to carry with me in that way. And there's like a lot of things that I've learned, and that helps me in that way. But you know, we're in a weird position, all of us that want to do what we want to do, right? Like, meaning like we all want the audience, and we all want the ability to, you know, to do this, and we all want the ability to be heard by the masses, and we believe what we're doing is worthy of that, and all of those things. And I think the most important thing is that for me, usually what helps me, and I get caught up all the time, like I set goals, I'm like, oh, I see, you know, that this band is doing this, well, there's no reason I can't be doing that too. And I think that's good, that's healthy. I think it's not healthy if there's like shade being thrown at people to try and make them seem less than, you know, or whatever that is. That stuff's not healthy. And we know that exists in our culture, so kind of stay away from that stuff. But that being said, it's so weird that we're in a numbers driven world, and that we have to like, and I mean, not that we're in a numbers driven world, but the social media numbers drive our worlds. It's like what social media presence we have dictates whether or not we're going to get to play a show or not, or we're going to get to ask to come over here and do this or to do that. And I'm sure it's the same for you, like based on, you know, ability of who, you know, hey, I want to talk to, you know, XYZ. And it's like, well, if your numbers were up a little bit more, maybe you could go after it, but you still go after it. But, you know, it's with the idea knowing that, that might be out of reach, but I'm still going for it. That's how we are, you know, we're the same way. And it's confusing. I think it's confusing to the consumer, like not consumers, but the people that enjoy what we do, the artistry of what we do, I think is the best way to put that. I think like people that need a break from life, man, being so tough. You know, that's why we play music. We like the break from life, and we hope that people like that too, you know.
Exactly. I love how you brought up the four absolutes. I got the card sitting right here with them on there, you know.
They're tattooed on my leg, believe it or not, man. I got them all down my leg. On my back, it says unselfishness. It's awesome. Like when I'm wearing low shorts, people just see selfishness. They're like, what is wrong with that guy? I'm like, oh, stay humble, you know, like.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Yeah, see, I mean, you know, you talk about some of those interviews that I've gotten turned down for, that I keep reaching for them, or the access I get turned down for, like at festivals or shows and stuff. And you know, sometimes that hurts, and I wish I had the numbers to have that access. But despite it all, since I've been on my journey of recovery and I've been honest, you know, about that, I've interviewed musicians on here and shared my recovery, and they've invited me into their recovery journey. They've been open with me about their recovery journey, and it's given me the opportunity to become friends with people that I don't even have to go through the publicist to try and get them on. I try not to abuse, you know, that we're in a group together that's like, you know, it's special. So I try not to, like, you know, some of the people I get to talk to, I'm like, wow, man, I grew up listening to these people, you know, and now I get to know them as a person and form a relationship with them. So I try not to be like, you know, take advantage of that. But there's been a couple where, you know, I mention I do this thing and they'd be like, oh, I'll come on, you know, and it's just like, so you go through the catalog, you're like, wow, how'd you get that guy? Well, you know, thankfully it's like just being honest and being open about who I am and forming relationships and not putting people on a, you know, like a pedestal. There's been a lot of reward from it, you know, that I'm grateful for, you know.
I love that. And I feel the same way. I feel the same way about what we do, you know. There's so many people that have helped us along our journey, and we're just grateful for what we get to do, man. And at the end of the day, I just feel like if there's one person that's entertained, then we've done our job, even if it's us sometimes.
Yeah.
So
well, I was reading in your guys' bio that you are a must-see live act. So tell me, why is that?
Energy. We have a raw, undeniable energy that is similar or could be compared to experiences like with the Ramones or things like that. I mean, we draw from the bands like them and the Dead Kennedys and stuff like that, you know, back in their heyday, when you would go to those shows, you would feel what was going on stage. We try to embellish that, and we try to deliver that at our performances. I think we do it in a way too, where we leave some things to be maybe not known, like you expect a certain level of, hey, this is going to be this quality of music or whatever, you know, of performance or whatever, whether that be like, hey, this is complete garage rock and expect anything, or hey, this is calculated and, you know, it's very structured in the way that this show will run. I think part of it is we have that structure there, but we have a loose structure, and we can do some things like add a guitar player and on a whim for a leg of a tour, and all of a sudden we're a 4-piece band, but the next week we'll be back to being a 3-piece, or maybe, you know, the next run we do, we're bringing out a keyboard player. So I think that kind of dynamic and energy helps to say, well, hey, we know that they came through a couple months ago and here they are coming back again. Why should I go see them again? Well, it's probably going to be a different show. And I think that's kind of a cool thing that we have. We have a catalog right now that spans over 60 songs, and we're just getting started on recording a lot of them. So it's like,
wow.
We have a lot of music that we're ambitious and anxious to get out here, you know?
Nice. So speaking of that catalog, you know, I don't know if you went down the rabbit hole, and people say this sometimes hurts me with my numbers and growth, because they're like, I don't know what to expect on your show. Sometimes, you know, it's like, I talk to a lot of musicians, we talk about music, but it's not just that, you know. Me being a veteran, I bring veterans on. I like to get their stories out there. Yeah. Me being in recovery, I like to get other people that are in recovery. I've had athletes, I've had entertainers and stuff on here. But, you know, one of my curiosities that I enjoy is when I have like the conspiracy theorist people on, you know, from that world. Or I just did with a buddy of mine, Rich Badeau he was a drummer from Finger 11. Me and him are both UFO buffs. So we had a guy that used to work for the in the Marine Corps intelligence talking about UFOs and stuff. We got to ask him some questions. So your single, UFO Over Marietta, tell me a little bit about that.
Well, so I have a friend that lives in that part of Georgia, and that friend and I had met somebody, and we hadn't all quite connected yet, but my friend in Georgia was working with that person who would later become my songwriting partner on that song and the rest of Crackheads Boxing Club and the Split Decision. And that song was written out of the admiration for the person that actually lives there in Marietta, the fact that this other person moved there that became a songwriting partner for me. And then I, at the time, was traveling back and forth from Georgia to Florida. And there's always these sightings that are reported being over there. So it was like we were going to take it, like we just wanted to take it into that world. And the way that Hyro had arranged the music, it seemed so perfect when I sat down and was working on the lyrics, and then came back to him, and we kind of like took these ideas where he had started on some of them and collaborated with me. And next thing you know, we've got this idea that creatures are coming down in Marietta and taking over, taking over Georgia. You know, it's not based in any truth or any actual event, other than people always say they see flying saucers over like Marietta or that part, or that they see these things that don't make sense, whether they're drones or military exercise, who knows? But I believe in UFOs. So
yeah, me too. And it's funny because I originally thought, since you live in Cincinnati, that you were talking Marietta, Ohio.
Oh yeah,
or something. But yeah, thanks for clearing that up for me. And it's
Absolutely.
funny, I don't know if you've heard the recent. There's been a lot of chatter about Bigfoot sightings now in Ohio on the internet. You know, like close by, like where my fiance is a firefighter out at Wyndham, and I guess there's been some sightings out there. So I'm thinking about reaching out to that guy and getting him on the show. But anyway. I'm driving off course here.
Well, I must say something about that. If you get a chance and you get to the Blue Ridge Mountains in Georgia, make sure you stop by the Sasquatch Museum. There's a lot to see in a small little package.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I'll have to for sure put that on my list to check out. And then, you know, I was watching, you know, on YouTube, the music video that you guys, well, your live performance at the Winchester, which is, you know, close in my backyard here. I think, what was the song? Was that Cancel Culture Woes that you guys are playing?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's talk about the inspiration for that.
Sure. So this is one where it could appear as one thing, but is really another. It's a little tongue in cheek. I like I think the best way for me to put it is that I feel like sometimes there's a lot of bullies out there that are itchy to pull a trigger on somebody, you know, and I'm not saying that there aren't people that deserve it. And I'm not saying that there aren't people that reap what they sow or anything like that. Like none of that is any of my business. None of that is what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to stay out of that argument actually completely. I'm more of the opinion that like there just shouldn't be access to people's lives behind a keyboard and what you can do to that person from keystrokes. And I think I'm more poking fun at the mob mentality, how quick people are to say this is truth and run off with it before they've even had a chance to investigate what the facts may be. And so I think the inspiration behind writing that song, not just for me, but for me and the band, has been really that idea that like, man, people, like, you see people get cut down and then all of a sudden, like, and they're not the norm. It's not the norm for people that are called out on these things that they get canceled for it to be this huge mistake. But I will say this, like, when you do make a mistake like that, how much damage you do to that person's life is probably worth taking a look at before keying some strokes in, you know?
Yeah.
And so, that I think is part of it. I think another part of it, if I were to say anything else about it, is that like we live in a world where there's this group of individuals that refuse to live in the present, and that are only consumed with the future, right? Like we can agree that that's the crux of a lot of our problems. They span throughout those three things, like past, present, and future, and mentality of what those things are. Past being, I'm not willing to accept these things that are happening now as being the present and let go of things as they were in the past. Present being, well, what's here and now is all that's important to me. I don't need to concern myself with those other things so that I can live my life one day at a time here and now. And then there's a whole other group of people that are like, well, we need to be concerned with preserving wealth for this group of individuals, or any of these types of things that people hypothesize out there, that people think about the future, or that these groups of people think about the future, right? So I think for me, it's kind of like, you think about cancel culture in that sense, and you really don't know who's calling the shot on what end of things, but that there are people in power on all sides of these things calling those shots, and you never really know where that keystroke is coming from. So that's kind of like the extra layer I think that's behind it. But
yeah, I gotcha. And then I saw that you guys were able to do, I think on one of your albums or back in the day, you got to work with members of the band, the Queers.
Yeah, so that's all throughout that record. That released back in July. So originally what it was is Hyro and I were going to release a record called the Crackheads, and we were just going to release the Crackheads Boxing Club. And Hyro and I decided to stop working together, and Joe and Hoglog had recorded with us all throughout the process or helped produce, and Joe would go in and do some backup vocals and stuff like that. And we recorded that record out of Monster Zero in Georgia, and then out of I did some of the vocal takes out of my studio in Florida at the time. And so that record is really the culmination of a very weird series of events that took place where 4 people that might not ordinarily make a record made a record. And that's what the outcome was, is that record that we have today. So I'm excited about it. I'm excited about what we've been able to do with it. It took me like 3 years to be able to bring it out, to kind of get it out where it was supposed to be in front of everybody. So it's been a long journey, 2.5 years. And then Hyro a year before me. And so looking at all of that and kind of getting that there, it's cool because Joe's been a friend of mine for about a decade. And it's nice to have to know that we've solidified at least some of those songs and stuff, like, and put that in, into a spot, and that's that record. So, and Hoglog played drums, and that was really cool of him to do too,
Awesome. And yeah, I love that name, Crackheads Boxing Club and the Split Decision.
Thanks.
So right now you guys are currently working on a new album. It's going to be self-titled.
That's correct.
Coming later this year. Do you guys have a solid date yet, or?
Solid, no. I can tell you that most of the recording is about ready to be set to mix. So that's exciting. We're also releasing 4 splits this year. We haven't kind of gone out there. We don't want to bite off more than we can chew, but more or less we've got some bands that we're going to be working with. A lot of them, that we've been touring with and stuff like that. We're like, hey, we should do something together and put that out. Jon Q Public is working on kind of creating a new record label. And so we're excited about that and just kind of seeing what that looks like for the future, and kind of partnering up and getting some, additional content out there with these other bands. One of them's Maestro Murder. One of them's the Sawed-Offs out of Georgia. Maestro's out of Cincinnati. We've been talking to Rat Trap, which features members of Gangrene. They, just a variety of different bands that we've been talking to try and get these EPs out that we have ready kind of to go. We want to just kind of get moving. So we expect by the end of the year to have released a full record and then 4 EPs that will become, what they are, the split LPs essentially, if that makes sense.
Yeah, gotcha. And then you mentioned, some of the bands that you've toured with in the past and kind of like those relationships you formed. You guys got a couple tours coming up now this year. I think, quite a few Ohio dates, so people can catch you in Ohio here. But I think the closest one to me is going to be May 14th at Dunlap's in Cleveland. You guys will be playing, but let's talk a little bit about the tour and, what's the intention other than, exposing yourself to new fans, whether you be playing a lot of the new stuff on this tour?
Yeah, since we're moving into places, meaning like where we haven't taken the music yet and all that stuff, we obviously want to introduce a lot of that stuff too, but we are very, very excited to introduce the newer stuff that we've been recording and stuff like that. So we've started, making a record. I think I've come to find out it takes a little time once you get going, but some of it's trial and error. You're like out there on the road and you're like, hey, like we're writing a song, like let's try this song. And then you get the song going. And then it's like, you get back to the studio and you're like, hey, what if we did this different and that different? And so there's been a lot of that over the last year, really, of touring for us. Last year we toured pretty heavy. This year we're touring heavier than I think we ever have. Right now, over 100 dates is what it's looking like this year. We just haven't released all the info for them, but later in the year we'll be touring again towards the second half. So I think for us, it's introducing people to us, letting people, hey, we're around, we're out here. We hope that you like us and like what we do, and we want to be a part of what you guys got going on in your scene. And we're trying to invite like Punk Rock Saves Lives and stuff like that to come out and be a part of the events that we're at. The event that you mentioned at Dunlap's is cool because it's a crossover event. There's going to be some folk punk happening. Some Bravo artists are going to be there, and we've got a new up and coming app called the Dead Ex-Boyfriends Club playing with us, and they're a punk band. So it'll be like an interesting eclectic mix, and I think a lot of the tour is set up that way. So we're really excited about it.
Nice. Yeah, it sounds like you guys are keeping busy for sure. What kind of like you said, you go out, you've been playing some of the new stuff and feel like, okay, maybe there's something we could change in the studio or stuff, but what other goals do you guys have for yourselves, like going forward?
I think this year we're trying to kind of catch up from behind a little bit from the last couple years, meaning like going through a full rebrand of a band is tough. And that's something that we've kind of faced as an adversity and where we've been at. So I believe in being very open and honest about these things. And we decided that where we landed in Jon Q Public, the best way to start was like, all right, well, we're going to take our existing catalog and start there and then move forward. And I think for us, what's most important as a unit is that we feel unified together and that we bring a sense of unity to the communities that we come out in, and that we're helping to kind of encourage people to come back out and enjoy live music post-COVID, to come back out and come to shows post chaotic environment that we all live in, or while it's happening even, let's say, because it's current, right?
Yeah.
Any of these events that continue to go on, like, look, man, take a break. Just come meet some people that want to have fun with you. And we hope that we can bring that experience. And that's important to us. It's very important to us. And I think for us to do that, we have to tighten up a few things on our end. Like our shop's about to finally go live. We should have had a shop live online a while ago, but we're slackers a little bit in that way sometimes. So but we're about to get that going, and Joe's been working really hard on that. Our bass player and a very good friend of mine he's been playing music for 20 something years, and I've known him for 20 something years. And I came back to Cincinnati and connected with him. So that's been really cool for us too. And so we're getting that going, and just trying to keep one foot in front of the other as we go,
Yeah. Nice. Well, hey, JJ, before we get ready to wrap up, I want to ask you some of the questions I normally ask guests that I have on. You talked about some of the bands that had inspired you when you were a kid, but who would you say are your top 3 artists you're listening to today?
Velvet Underground, a whole lot of Screeching Weasel right now, and Bad Religion.
Nice.
I'd say those are my top 3 right now. Yeah.
Awesome. And then what class do you feel should be mandatory before graduating high school today?
Say that again. I'm sorry.
What class do you feel should be mandatory before graduating high school today?
Lunch. I don't think kids eat enough these days.
There you go. And then
and I miss pizza. It's the best day of the week.
Oh yeah, I remember those old sheet little. Yeah.
I just quoted the Aquabats. That's totally their line. I just stole it, but it really is the best day of the week.
Nice. And then who are 3 people who've inspired you and you can credit for making you the person you are today?
I think I have some very pivotal and important people in my life that I would say have helped make me who I am. One for sure is my friend Paul. I lived homeless in Cincinnati for 4 years before I went to Florida, and that's like a whole nother segment, I'm sure. If you were to ever have me back, you may never have me back, but I was on the streets, and when I left here, I left Cincinnati with like 2 trash bags full of clothes and got shipped to Florida to try and start my life over. And somebody helped me get there and helped all that make all that happen. And I got down there, and this person, at first he was like, stodgy, grumpy dude. And, I got to know him, and like within like 2 weeks, he had an acoustic guitar and I had an acoustic guitar, and we were playing in a country duet together and starting to play music and stuff. And we bonded and connected over those things. And that guy always used to say, I came from the shrubberbs. And when he would say I came from the shrubberbs, I could identify with that, because I'm like, I did too, I was in the shrubberbs too, and so that always made me feel good, and like I connected with him. So that's definitely one. His name was Paul. And I would say another person that I would say that's been hugely influential and effective in my life is a friend named Jason. And he's in a band called Maestro Murder, and I've known him since I was 6. And so knowing somebody like that long, they typically know the person that you were, the person that you've become, and they've seen that journey. So I think I would say that. And last, I would say another hugely influential person for me would be my stepdad. His work ethic is unparalleled. I've never seen anything like it. And I think because of him, I feel the need to work the way that I do, which is like, hey, I just always got to keep moving. I just got to keep moving. And that guy jumped up on a roof for 40 years, and kept getting up there to support his family. And seeing that and knowing what kind of human he is, I think that's helped shape me, to be who I am today.
Nice. Yeah, dude, I wish we had more time. I'd get into the story.
Oh, yeah.
Because, I know there's a lot of, inspiration behind that, getting out to where you're at today. Unfortunately, I'm on a time crunch.
Oh, man, I didn't even mean to blast that on. I think it just kind of came out.
No, it's all good, man. It'll just give me a reason to get you back on. So
that sounds good to me.
I've enjoyed this conversation. So it's like, I'm glad I saw that movie that triggered your name, that wanted me to reach out to have this conversation with you. There's always a reason things happen, and I'm excited for you guys.
We're now back to you too, and you're doing a great job. Thank you.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. And then back to childhood. Before probably, the piccolo and stuff like that. Favorite toy as a child?
Favorite toy? I had a teddy bear.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty lame. I like how young we talking, because then it became like G.I. Joes, and then it became like He-Man and the whole He-Man collection. So Thundercats were cool. I dug all that stuff.
Yeah. It doesn't matter like what age bracket. Like I had guys talk about the Evel Knievel motorcycle quite a bit on here or whatever. I had the He-Man action figure. I've had the G.I. Joes. I've had all that. So I'm still a nerd.
Ghostbusters Proton Pack would have to be my favorite. If I'm going to be like, there was only one to rule them all, it would be the Ghostbusters Proton Pack in the trap. I would take it to school and throw it out at the teachers, like in kindergarten.
Nice. And then, we were talking kind of about a lot of this stuff going on in the world today, and just trying to bring, happier thoughts to people. But any message you have for our military members that are currently serving overseas?
Thank you for doing what you believe is right, and I hope that that whatever that may be, that you are safe and that your family is safe and that your family knows that you're safe, and that everybody can come to peace and be at peace with one another.
Awesome. Well, JJ, man, I appreciate the conversation, man. It was good talk, and we'll definitely look to have you back sometime. Now, before I get ready to let you go, you mind doing me one last favor?
Sure.
Just cutting a promo ID for the show. Just like introduce yourself, and you're listening to today's Boondoggle.
What was that? So you want me to introduce myself and say I'm listening to today's Boondoggle? Is that what you said?
Yeah. Just a promo ID, like introduce yourself, what band you're with, and that you're listening to today's Boondoggle.
Hi, I'm JJ Roeting. I'm with Jon Q Public. There's no H in the John in Jon Q Public, and you're listening to today's Boondoggle.
Awesome. JJ, man, thanks for your time. It was a good conversation, man. Look forward to catching you guys when you come up in the area.
I appreciate that. Real quick question. You'll edit, I guess, some of this. Is that how that works, or how does this work?
Yeah. I like the pause part. I'm not the best at editing. That's why I hit the pause.
If I ramble, take out the ramble. I'm sorry if I did it. I think part of me may have. I don't know.
No, dude. All's good, man. Everything's good. You know, it was a good conversation.
All right. Thanks, man. I appreciate you, man. Thank you very much for your time, and thanks for everything that you're doing, man.
All right. Thank you. You take care.
You too. Bye-bye.
Listen up! Hold on to your seats. Grab your girls, grab your beers.
Hey everybody, this is Charlie from Anthrax, and you are listening to today's Boondoggle.
This is Mark Metcalf, and you are listening to today's Boondoggle with Bailey on Domain Cleveland Radio.
You are listening to today's Boondoggle with Bailey on Domain Cleveland Radio. Yes, Kato Kalin listens to this all the time.
Welcome to today's Boondoggle. Now here's your host.
I am Monty Heath, so one Heath, and you are listening to today's Boondoggle.
Hey, what's up? It's John from Skillet, and you are listening to today's Boondoggle on